if everything is good on the line. Okay, so good evening, everyone. Streaming has begun. So you are officially welcome to today's policy dialogue series presented by Yafo Institute. Yafo Institute is an independent policy think tank or research organization with core aims to promote libertarian ideas and free enterprise research through public policy debates and advocacy for a free and prosperous society in Ghana. We can also add that we are the 2024 Think Tank Shark Tank winners as well. So you are all welcome to today's policy dialogue. Our guest speaker has joined us, and other speakers who will be on the panel are also on the call. The theme for today's dialogue is assessing the impact of regional reorganization and the Zongo Development Fund on Ghana's development. So I will introduce our guest speaker so that he gives us the introduction on the topic. Our guest speaker today is Emmanuel Akwesi Jemfi Mensah. He is Cambridge International Examination Historian Educator for the past 10 years, and he has background in legal research, legal affairs, and has great interest in social and political and international issues. He's also a public speaker who specializes in Master of Ceremony and Moderation. Those of us who follow us have seen him work with some of our policy dialogue as a moderator. And he's also a prolific writer whose work have received some applause across Ghana and the world. So, ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Mr. Emmanuel Akwesi Jemfi Mensah. So, Akwesi,
yes, sir.
You are welcome. You are welcome. And
thank
today
you.
You are kicking off the discussion on the theme assessing the impact of regional reorganization and Zongo Development Fund on Ghana's development. Those of us who follow the policy space have seen this policy rollout from 2018 and till now. So we are going to have our guest speaker speak on the theme, and then we'll have the discussion section where our panelists will join. Then from there, we can also let our audience ask their questions, and then it's a dialogue, so we'll make it very interactive. So, Akwesi, over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Nathaniel. I'm humbled by the call up to lead this discussion. Indeed, I've been a partner of Yafo, and I'm thrilled by your works. And when I was called to join in this, I felt it was only just right. So thank you once again for honoring me. And I believe I'll be able to steer this discussion, and then also prop our minds regarding government policies and how successful they have been or otherwise. So as you've rightly indicated, the topic for discussion is assessing the impact of regional reorganization and the Zongo Development Fund on Ghana's development. So it means that we are seeing two main government projects or government targets or agenda, and the extent to which they've been fruitful. We would start, first of all, with the regional reorganization. But just for us to be clear, my presentation or discussion is going to be based on, of course, the relevant documents available to us. So we have the Constitution of our country. We also have the enactments, the related enactment, and other academic writings and policy documents that are available for us. So it's not political, it's very, very non-partisan, and we are seeking the good of Mother Ghana. So we want to start off first with the regional reorganization. And as a historian, I'm very, very fond of taking us so far back into the past. and how we have gotten to this point. When we look at our history, for many of us, we came to meet 10 regions of Ghana. I don't know those who came to meet lesser, but if you came to meet lesser, then I think you are the boss. You belong to the generation before the millennial. So I'm a millennial, so I came to meet 10 regions, or probably just a little less, about 8 or so. Now, before the 1992 Constitution, there were less than 10 regions. Then, through Chairman Rawlings, of course, at that time he became president. At that time, there was the upper regions, which we now split them into two. That's the Upper West and the Upper East. Then we had the bigger northern region, and we had the half region among others. So it was just around less than 10. And then the 1992 Constitution split the upper region into two. Now, fast forward, for over 20 years, we had seen only 10 regions. Ghana's population kept increasing. Municipalities kept being created, new districts being created. Many municipalities were now promoted to metropolitan assembly. So we believe that there was a need to create more regions. So when you look at the Constitution of Ghana, Article 5 to be precise, it provides for the manner in which new regions can be created. And indeed, the Local Government Act also supports the process of creating new regions. That's Act 462. So we came to see 6 regions newly created by this current administration. Now we want to ask ourselves, what is the purpose of creating a new region? What is the purpose of creating a new region? For many people, their belief is that we want to ensure that development reaches every part of the country. And when we look at Ghana, very diverse country, we see that not every place has seen significant development as the Greater Accra region or the bigger regions that we know, like Ashanti region and then the Western region. So there was a need, or there's a need to create more regions. That is the brain behind it. We would do a critique of that agenda, but it seems fair that we do that. Again, we also think that it will also help by creating new regions. You're providing infrastructure, creating new offices. So that means it helps in employment, among others. So that seems like a laudable idea. Indeed, when you look at the localities that where we created new regions, they were full of happiness, filled with joy, because for the first time, they're also going to see some form of capital, original capitals, or sort of close to them. They're going to get new regional ministers and all. So that is the essence of creating a new region or creating new regions. As to whether this regime did well in creating a huge number at 6, close to more than half of the existing, it is something we are going to be assessing soon. Now, when you look at our constitution, it still provides for the development, as in developing the localities, the various, especially the hard to reach districts or communities. And through the districts that they are in, or the municipalities they are in, or through the regions that they belong to, we expect that some form of development will get there. But some way, somehow, throughout our 60 years of existence as a country, over 60 years, sorry, we've seen that still some places hardly receive anything at all. And so there was a reason. This present regime government believed that many began targeting the development, and they realized that the Zongo communities are the most, not the most, but one of the communities that are left behind when it comes to development. When we say Zongo communities, we know them to be usually in the outskirts of major townships or major cities or communities, and are predominantly occupied by our Muslim brothers. Of course, it's an issue that's a bit, do I say, political. But when you look at the Zongo Development Act, Act 964, it created a policy framework and how to get development into such communities. And that was the purpose of which the Zongo Development Fund was created. So they noticed that there was high poverty in those communities. I think I've mentioned something similar. Poor infrastructure was also a big issue there too, and limited access to basic services. The reason for creating the Zongo Development Fund under an act of parliament. And it's interesting to note that it came, it was passed just in 2017, almost immediately when the current regime came up or was installed. It meant that it was of importance to them. Now, with the understanding that we have about these two, I don't know which places that we all live. Many of us are centered in Accra. I'm sure there are people who are not in Accra, a few others. I'll be glad if I can have anyone who is in any of the newly created regions to just show up, by waving. And then we will proceed from there. Anyone who is from the any of the newly created regions. Anyone? Oh, I can't get anyone. Okay, then let me so anyone from any of the Zongo communities, yeah, in Ghana, any of the Zongo communities, or who live closer to any Zongo community around. All right, thank you, Mr. Isaac. You'll be my resource person when it comes to the Zongo community. So thank you for showing up. Yes, Isaac, quickly. Hello,
yeah, I don't
Isaac.
live in a Zongo community, but then
But
like,
you are...
I live close to. Yeah, let me just say I live close to.
Okay, so
Because
which
basically
Zongo
I believe the
community?
Zwi community. I live in a district capital, okay, and definitely within every district capital there is a Zongo somewhere.
Certainly.
Yeah, so
certainly.
where I am, yeah, there's a Zongo.
Okay, specifically,
I live in Insuta. Insuta is the capital
Insuta.
town of, yeah, Central District in the Ashanti region.
Okay, in the Ashanti region. All right, thank you, Insuta man. All right. So we have Isaac, who lives closer to a Zongo community near Insuta, and we will be falling on him for some of the hard facts, if I should put it that way. So leading us back to the discussion, the original intent of the creation of these policies. There are so many, do I say, conspiracy theories. We'll get to that portion, or not conspiracy theories, but the understanding of some people. But it will be important for us to look at what these things have done. Now we go straight to the creation of new regions. That's a regional reorganization. 6 new regions through a referendum and by the Act of Parliament were created. We have the Savannah region, Northeast region, Western North region, the OT region, and I think the Bono region, Bono half region was split, came to have the half region, the Bono East, and the Bono region. So this is now the new, more or less, constitution of Ghana. When you look at these individual regions or these new regions, you realize that there's some level of ethnic harmony, or supposedly the agenda was also encourage ethnic harmony. There has been a lot of arguments that, hey, when developmental projects come into the region, it's centralized on a certain ethnic areas, and largely because these ethnicities are of the majority, and their leadership are also from the leadership of the region, also from those ethnicities. Therefore, the developmental projects gravitate towards the communities of the bigger ethnicities. So now the smaller or the minority ethnicities will now see some of them. We wouldn't want to encourage ethnocentrism, but to an extent, we believe that there's some level of ethnocentrism that goes with the creation or the ethnic sentiments, not ethnocentrism, forgive me, ethnic sentiments that goes with the creation of these ethnic groups. And if you look at the purpose for creating regions, it's to promote regional harmony or to integration, regional integration. So immediately begin to create regions that would focus a lot on ethnic sentiments, then we are losing the plot. This can be very worrying. And then you create it just to court the support of the people in terms of votes or in terms of fondness, creating some level of likeness among the people. You may not bring anything. We'll come to that aspect too, because we would come to accept the fact that some of the newly created regions still do not have proper infrastructure that befits the status of a region. Even if we are focusing also on the decentralization, when you look at our constitution, the primary tool or the primary medium for decentralization are the districts. And in fact, we need not worry too much about regions, in the opinion of many policy observers. Creating new regions hardly provide what is needed. Equipping the districts that are already there, the local government already there, is the way to go. Now, when you look at the impact, clearly, we can see that there's been little when it comes to impacts of the creation of new regions, except for the formation of the establishment of government offices in such areas, and the creation of these portfolios as regional minister and the regional offices that come with all these things. And it's interesting to note that some of them have really not severed or broken away from the original region that they used to be with. This is concerning, in my opinion. Oh, yes. Now, coming to the Zongo Development Fund, if we can now fall on Isaac, I'll call on Isaac anyway very soon. But when you look at the 2022, I'm trying to find a document that relates to the Zongo Development Fund. And we have the president, the current vice president of Ghana, who's also running for the position of president in the 2024 polls. And it's interesting to note some of the things that we tout as the successes or the achievements of the Zongo Development Fund. Permit me to make to identify some of them. So, for example, key, the construction of football fields, educational facilities, and other related resources, supply and installation of street lights. And others include the provision of mechanized water systems, construction of roads, educational training centers, and recreational health facilities, among others. Now, I pose the multi-million-dollar question. Are these what is really required by the localities for real development. It may be satisfactory to an extent, but after all, a Zongo community is very small. But if you're looking at the bigger picture, looking at, say, the bigger community, because the Zongo community is not really separated from the township or the suburb it is attached to. It is only a group of people, the composition are homogeneous. So that means they are of the same religious grouping. So we think they are separate. They aren't really separate. In what ways are these going to be of significant importance to not only the Zongo community, but the adjoining or the main communities associated with? This is a very concerning question. Otherwise, we are going to be limiting the Zongo Development Fund to merely the establishment of football fields. And for me, this government seems to be talking a lot more about some of these community centers or resource centers that they have built. It will lead us to the discussion of the management of these, facilities that are provided. Oftentimes, as we've seen in some of our news on TV, some of the facilities are not being properly managed. So the end game or the end goal of the fund, to an extent, hasn't been achieved. But that's not to say that these two haven't achieved anything. Of course, when you look at the purpose for which they were established, so far, people can be happy about some new changes in their communities. For some people, the fact that a new facility has been built in their community is a big thing for them. It is sad, for example, in my neighborhood in Dantuman, I lived over there for more than 20 years. And for all those 20 years, I hadn't seen a single tarred road. Not until later, entering into the 30th year, that I saw tarred roads reaching my gates. So these are the concerns of some of the policies that we're talking about. Now, permit me to make reference to the Ghana Statistical Service. And Nathaniel, I just want to know, am I going too far? Am I going too fast? Am I on track?
Yeah, you are on track. You have about 10 minutes to wrap up, then we can start the discussion so that
okay. All right. Thank you so much for letting me know that. I almost went deeper. All right. Thank you. Now, just to open our minds to something. So the Ghana Statistical Service report, and in their report, they published that in their report titled the Annual Household Income and Expenditure Survey. Now, this report provides data on poverty rates, employment levels, access to education, among other things. And they compare these indicators before and after the reorganization, and they offer insights to this impact. And when you look at that document, I will share it after this. You realize that it hasn't been so significant. It is merely a change in status, in name, or in the minds, and gives some pride to the people. But it hasn't been so significant. So that is something we should be thinking about regarding that one. All right. Now, I want us to also look at the Zongo Development Fund. For that one, the document is very much available. When you check the Zongo Development Fund document website, you would see it's over there. But one big concern is that when you look at some of the facilities or the developmental projects that were introduced there, it appears that there was little community engagement. Or even if there were, what was put out for them did not reflect the desires of the majority. In fact, it appears that for many, it is a government policy that has been spread out over the whole country for all the Zongo communities. It appears that to the government, all that the Zongo communities need are AstroTurf pitches to get them playing a lot more. I believe, exercise, physical, exercising and all are good for the body. But to what extent do we think that it's enough for the community? So we realized that these were not the true reflection of the desires of the people. So I would want to pause over here and we would open up the discussion, and then we would see how far we can assess in detail these two flagship policies of the government. Thank you very much, Nathaniel.
Thank you very much, Akwesi, for this introduction. So we have our introduction on what regional development is, and then what the Zongo Development Fund is about. So if you are just joining us, this is the policy dialogue brought to you by Yafo Institute. We are looking at assessing the impact of regional reorganization and the Zongo Development Fund on Ghana's development. At this juncture, I would like to introduce our panelists to begin the panel discussion. Of course, our guest speaker will be the first person on the panel. Next on the panel is Samuel Isaac Eli. He is also a development planner with years of industry experience at the Ministry of Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development through the Jamanoff District Assembly in the Bono region, and in the Bono region and such a Central District Assembly in the Ashanti region. He is experienced in designing and implementing short and medium-term plans with particular consideration for monitoring and evaluation. He holds Bachelor of Art degree in Geography and Rural Development with specialization in Urban Geography from Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. He's also a member of the Central District Technical Committee responsible for reviewing, evaluating, and recommending for the approval and disapproval of building permits in the district. Again, he spearheads social intervention and government safety net projects, including labor-intensive public work. He has participated in capacity building training by the National Development Planning Commission, and the Ghana Statistical Service. He's also the team lead for policy scholars at Yafo Institute. So help me welcome Asamoah Isaac Eli. Isaac, you can turn on your camera so that I can add you to the focus group. Okay, good.
Hello,
Let me
Mr.
add you to Spotlight quickly. So
Thank you very much for the introduction.
Okay, so you are welcome, Isaac. Let me add myself to the Spotlight as well so that we can start. Then we have our lady. I don't know if she's on the call. Okay, I think she's on the call. She's the person of Josephine Boyd-Doku. She has complained of having network challenges. So if in terms of if she's interrupted, kindly forgive her because of her network challenges. So let me also introduce her. That will be the final person on the panel. She is Josephine Boyd-Doku. She's a dedicated research intern at Yafo Institute. She graduated from the University of Ghana, Legon, with Bachelor of Philosophy and Sociology. She's passionate about positively impacting Ghanaian society with her studies. She has competence in data analysis through work at the data entry office and customer service advisor for small businesses. She is curious and always looking for new information to advance her career. Her satisfaction lies in her ability to work well with others to achieve team goals and in producing top-notch research results. She's dedicated at advancing her professional ladder to make a meaningful contribution to Ghanaian society. Currently, she's a research intern at the Center for Public Policy and Constitutional Governance and the Center for Free Enterprise and Innovation at Yafo Institute. So Josephine, if you are here, you are welcome, and then turn on your camera so that I add you to the focus I'll add you to the focus on the team meeting. If I add you, you can take off your camera afterwards, but without your camera being on, I can't add you. Is she on the call or she's off?
I think she's on.
Okay, yeah, I just seen her. Okay, good. Let me also, those who have joined us, we have other researchers at the Yafo Institute who are also on the call. Let me also give a special acknowledgement to Mr. Isaac Asare. He's also an ADR practitioner, and I'm also his student, and he's on the call. So, Mr. Isaac, you are welcome to joining us on this policy dialogue.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Evening.
Okay, so our panelists, we will zoom into the discussion. At this juncture, if anybody has a question, you can ask. You can just raise your hand and I'll call on you to ask, or you can type it in the chat box. I'll also read it to our panelists. So we have done the introduction of these major policies. I'll call them flagship policies by the current government. I would like to zoom into my first question will go to Mr. Isaac, because you are also having experience working at the district level. So I want to find out how has the regional integration, regional organization and impacted economic development in the newly created regions? How has this new region impacted economic development in these regions?
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so like our host rightly said, these regions were created with particular focus on certain thematic areas, and one of them was the economic dimension. Yeah, so the reasoning was that in creating those extra regions, it was going to ensure the promotion of or encourage economic development in certain areas. Now, I normally want to make reference to OT region because I spent right after the creation of the OT region, I spent a month or two there and I tried interrogating the people that I encounter, both from Volta region and the OT region. And I tried to find out from them that, okay, yeah, so this creation of the region, in the first place, was it needed? Was it essential? And yeah, based on what I gathered from there, especially from OT region, it was very essential. And their point was that, okay, let me just put it this way. When it comes to Ghana, for instance, basically the national cake is not spread based on localities. That's to say, the decentralized ones, that's the district assemblies and the municipalities and the metropolitans. But then proper reference is normally made to regions instead. So now let's say in this year 2024, if government has funding for construction of, let's say, 1,000 kilometers of road, then it's going to spread this 1,000 kilometers of road on the various regions. So now when it gets down to the region, it's the region that decide where we want our share to go. So yeah, so in this essence, then it means that, let's say, when OT region was part of Volta region, now OT region presently have 8 MMDAs. Then Volta region is having, I think, they have a little over 13. Let me confirm this figure. Okay, so now let me just stay on the OT region. So OT region has 8 MMDAs at the moment. So which means that before they became a region on their own, they were part of the Volta region. So initially, if Volta region's share was, let's say, 100 kilometers of road, then it means that it was going to spread this on more MDAs instead of now limiting it to just 8 or 10. All right, so that's one angle I wanted to look at it from. Then now, so when it comes to the economic dimension, we want to know, okay, when it comes to economic, Ghana's backbone is basically the agriculture industry. So we want to know how much or how well have you done with agriculture. when it comes to these new regions. For instance, when you take Techman, for instance, Techman has been noted for production. Ghana has actually its biggest market. I don't know if I'm getting if I'm right with my
just go ahead and make the point. We can cross-check the data if in case there's mistake with that. So just make the point.
Yeah, so Techman has been noted for one of the biggest markets in Ghana. And before that time, before the creation of that region in particular, that's the Blue East region, they've been noted for this. And now that they became a regional capital too, we want to find out how has it improved? Per my experience and the little research that I've done, actually, Techman was doing better few years ago. That was before they became a regional capital, where they were noted for this market, having one of the biggest markets in Ghana. But presently, they are even doing, and we all know the kind of things that we can push these things to. Now, Ghana has not really done much in improving our infrastructure, especially when it comes to road. So presently that we are speaking, these farmlands are often very far from our regional capitals and our district capitals. And that access roads that will link these farms to the markets are not there. So now there are times that a farmer can make his goods ready. And by the time a car or let's say these trucks will get there trying to go and get these foodstuffs from the farm, it would take them, let's say, a week or two. We've heard, and normally we watch these documentaries of how these car trucks spend several days and even weeks just because they got stuck. So now when we're looking at it from this point, then we want to know that what has Ghana actually done in terms of expanding our infrastructure, to create these access links to make sure that our economic activities thrive. So per my research and what I want to say that Ghana hasn't done much when it comes to that aspect. So economically, I wouldn't want to believe that Ghana has improved in its economic development after the creation of this new region.
Of the regions. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Josephine, in 1 minute, can you add up to the same question, or I should repeat the question again? Should I repeat the question?
Yes, please kindly go back.
Yeah, I'm saying that how has the regional reorganization impacted economic development in the newly created regions? Kindly do that for me in 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. So I think with the creation or the reconstruction of the regions, means that we now have new regional capitals, and so investors would like to move there to explore the environment and see how best it would grow economically. New businesses are going to those places. In return, they are creating job opportunities for the people living in those environments as well. Aside it's been economically beneficial to the people and to investors, I think the government is benefiting in the sense that, once you start a business in Ghana, you have to start paying taxes. You will not be exempted. So I think economically, both investors and then both governments is also benefiting from this. So this is the little I can add when it comes to economic impact, please.
Okay. I'll have a certain document here. I also want to look at the Zongo Development Fund, the role it is playing in terms of economic opportunities for the Zongo communities. But this is a 2020 document, budget statement. I would like to share, and then let's outline some of these. These are some of the benefits that were outlined. Okay, if you look at infrastructure, you talk of in-house toilet toilet constructed in Gamashi. This is a budget document. This is page 9. I can take you to this is the you see 20. I want us to know the document before I come to the page 9, because so this is a Ministry of Intercity and Zongo Development. So in this same document, let's go to the page I just scroll from. So this is page 9, and this 2029, 2019 performance, and drafting of the Zongo Development Fund regulation completed, and this is a performance indicator. So we'll put that one aside, and then the number of people that they were able to recruit. So Josephine, your point by saying that it's creating employment and whatnot. So administratively, people may find jobs and whatnot for some of these government functions. Then we'll look at some of the social. I'm much particular about this social development. It says 250 youth trained in software development in Ashanti and Greater Accra regions. Then it talks about launched solid waste source segregation program in 5 communities: Nima, Mamobi, Newton, Ashama, and Medina. Legal aid provided to vulnerable communities in the Cape Coast municipality in collaboration with UCC law faculty. I think this one, Mr. Isaac will talk on this point. Maybe he's aware of it because he has link with UCC. Then State Soccer League held in 56 districts in 6 regions. So in the 6 regions that were created, I don't know whether it's the 6 regions that were created. Then Zongo for Peace and Development Dialogue Conference held in Kumasi. Bursary support provided for 15 students. Training provided for 25 gender activists from 5 regions. Then business development training provided to 500 Zongo cuisine operators, entrepreneurship, business management, and productivity improvement. So this is 2019 mid-year budget statement. So that was what was captured from that document. Akwesi, Mr. Jemfi.
Yes.
So with this, can you say that the fund has played a role in fostering economic opportunities for people within the Zongo community?
Yes, certainly. And we have to give the government the credit. You can't totally say that this is not enough. When you look at the list as provided by you, it's okay. But when upon critical assessment, it looks to me more of an ancillary support, not really something that is going to drive the macroeconomy, if I should put it that way. It's only minimal. All right. So, for example, if you have built, say, a field, of course, going to generate some economic activity. People are going to be selling around there and all. To what extent is it so impactful? I mean, otherwise, we are not focusing on the bigger picture. So that is my personal opinion regarding that.
Okay, I would like you to take this aspect for me because of you in your presentation earlier. You mentioned the reason for creating some of the regions being ethnic sentiments, trying to use those things to ride on it to create a region for a particular ethnic group or something. I want you to look at it in terms of fostering social and cultural impact. So in the creation of, how has the reorganization affected social cohesion and cultural identity in the new region? Does it foster something like that? Like in a positive sense?
All right. I think that there's some positives there. You know, the newly created region now has its own sense of identity and not necessarily it's being secondary to a bigger ethnicity that it once belonged to, as with the previous regions. It is very good because you get to, as a historian who is very much interested in culture, you realize that you now zoom into your culture the more, what aspects of your culture must really be displayed or must be pushed to the fore instead of always being associated with the former region. Now, typically, if I am from the OT region and I used to be part of the Volta region, everyone would think that everyone from the Volta region is ever. But when you look at the ethnic composition of the Volta region, the erstwhile Volta region, there were none other people over there. You had the Buem people, you have people of Akan descent, and all that. So now that the new region has been created for them, their identity is highlighted the more. So I believe this is a very positive aspect for the creation of a new region.
Okay. Mr. Isaac, you have a geographical background. When you talk of regions, you say regions are political construction, and from the presentation Akwesi made, we know that this had some political connotation with respect to creation of the regions because we have a constitutional instrument and whatnot. So with that, one of the rationale for the creation of the region was that once a region is created, it will bring about development. I want to ask you, does creation of regions translate into development? With what we have seen so far, has it translated into development?
Okay, thank you very much. I think with this, we can't give a direct answer to it. Yeah, because like our host said earlier on, we have its positives and its negatives. Yeah, so now when you look at Ghana, for instance, in Ghana, yeah, we create regions as an administrative division. That is one level below the national government. And it's normally headed by the minister who is appointed by the certain president. Yeah, so creation of regions doesn't necessarily reflect in development. Yeah, unless we consciously organize ourselves to, when it comes to development, we are looking at a lot of indicators. We are looking at it from the aspect of economic, from social development, from cultural aspects, then what have you, political representation and all. But yeah, it's also worthy to know that, again, with reference to what Mr. Kwesi made earlier on, when it comes to decentralization, the best medium or the proven medium that works has been the district assemblies and the municipalities and the metropolitan. Yeah, so now when it comes to the creation of more regions, we want to ask ourselves that where does the devolution and the delegation comes in still? It seems like it's just the same thing that we are revolving. We are just revolving around just one thing that has been there. So like I said earlier, we cannot give a straight answer to it, but then definitely the creation of the regions has brought about some impacts. If for nothing at all, let's say, we know that in Ghana presently, there are certain services. You can make reference to the passport office, for instance. This passport office can only be located in regional capitals. So which is say that earlier on or years ago, before the creation of this Oti region and Volta region, somebody living in Dambai will have to go to Ho just to get a passport. But now the capital town has been brought to Dambai there. The person can just spend some few minutes to access the passport office and get these things done. Yeah, so in the aspect of administrative wise, I think Ghana has done much. But when it comes to the other indicators, including the economic, the social, and others, there's still more to do. Thank you.
Okay, Josephine has left us. I don't know if she can just turn on the camera so that I add it to the focus. But then let me open it up for our audience to come in. If you have any question, you can ask. I earlier on mentioned Mr. Isaac's name with respect to the legal aid that was provided or listed in the achievement. And that was in connection with UCC. I don't know whether he heard of it so that he can throw more light on how it impacted the vulnerable people. But then, Josephine, if you are there, you can just turn your camera so that I add you to the focus. Ellie, you ended your submission with administration in terms of organizing Ghana's resources. I don't know if before I have a question on that, but my speakers, I don't know why you have all turned off your cameras because there are others who are watching us from Facebook and also from YouTube. Because you all turn off your camera, that's why sometimes I also off mine. But I don't know if it is with respect to internet, fine. But if not, I will be happy if you can turn on your cameras. is very important. Okay, so I was asking, has the regional reorganization led to more efficient governance and administration at the regional level? Has it led to something like that? Akwesi, will you take it from there for me?
Yes. Yeah, so I just changed my room. I hope it's not echoing so much.
No, it's okay.
Okay, thank you very much. So first off, I think it's superficial. I mean, some of us are very critical of government policies. The focus of every government policy is efficiency, all right, and of course, effectiveness. Okay, and if you are creating more regions to ensure that people have easy access to things such as, say, schools, more schools or health facilities, say passports, if you need one, you don't have to go too far away. The question is, why don't you create a system that would make it easy to move yourself around? You get the point. So for example, why don't you create more schools instead of creating another region, creating more regional offices, more portfolios, where I'm going to invest more money into, instead of just doing the right thing, create the school, construct the road, so that we don't waste too much money on these things. Otherwise, we end up having too many people with titles who are literally doing nothing. You get the point. I mean, our expert from the local government office can bear me out. That so many fantastic brains or ideas idling about in regional offices. You see, and just because there's no proper funding. So what is the office doing? You get me. So that is my opinion over here.
Okay, I would like to say that when you check the budget statement for 2029, almost about 40 in payment of compensation. So I think that also buttresses the point you are making, that we've created the positions and then we pay people, and then you don't get much work done because there are people with a lot of portfolios. Mr. Isaac, you have mentioned that you are close to Zongo community. I want to find out when the creation of this fund came up, was there involvement of local leaders in the implementation and management of the Zongo Development Fund? Do we have anything like that? You are muted, please. You are muted.
All right, sorry. Okay, so like prior to this,
You are muted. Whatever. Start.
Yeah, prior to this event, I also tried making that research and to see how the direct beneficiaries were involved in this planning and all that. And it seems, when you take presently, Ghana is using the medium-term development plan, which is 2022 to 2025, based on the previous medium-term development plan framework. And that one was organized before this government took off. Yeah, so normally what happens is that before the next government will have come, this one have been in place. Yeah, so if you're making reference to that, and when it comes to this document, the guiding document for the creation of the Zongo Development Fund, they make reference to that DMTDP. So if indeed we made that reference to it, then it means when it comes to this particular development fund, then the people were not involved because it was there before they came. Yeah, so that's it. Okay, so, and also to add up to what Mr. Kwesi said earlier on, like let's say when you take the passport office, for instance, bringing the passport officers down to the districts and let's say even our localities, that would be the best. But then you want to know, wouldn't that one be more costly than just centering them at the regional capitals? That's also another way to look at it. I think that one would rather even push our expenditure up.
Oh, okay. So with the passport example is one thing, but I don't want to look at it because it's an example that was used. My query will be on there are a lot of things that make a region or a district function. For instance, individuals, if they want to create business, they will need office of the register of companies. And the last I checked, that office had, I think there were 4. They were only in 4 regions in Ghana. They have Kumasi, Accra, Takoradi, and something else. So if we are organizing the people and want the people way of life to be better, the things that will make the people's own creativity to be genuine, like, because if somebody is in Bono and is working on oil farm, oil palm plantation, and needs FDA approval, all of them have to come to Accra because the FDA's office that can test their product is in Accra. They have to carry your product to Accra. These are things that people need to make their daily bread. That is even more essential than even the passport office. You get, because if you are going for passport, people are leaving because nowadays Ghanaians are traveling and they are leaving our country. So with respect to that, because I want to engage on that issue that early raises, because, and let's tackle other things that really make the people's livelihood come to life in regions and what have you. So I could see I'll leave it to you if you want to engage that.
Yes, you see, we always need to consider the basics. As a government, your principal duty is to make the lives of the people easier, provide their fundamental needs, or provide avenues to get them their fundamental needs. Now, fundamental needs, when you look at governance, or when you look at economies in general, one of the principal drivers of economies are proper transportation. Now, in my opinion, nothing beats proper transportation when it comes to, developmental agenda. Okay, and I'm even expanding the transportation to include modern telecommunication. You get the point. Now, you can be in some countries, you can be in your home. You can register a business from your home without having to step foot out of your home, not even out of your community, out of your home. You don't need to step out of your home. You register a business, you upload the relevant documents, and then in the next few minutes or hour or days, less than a week, you have your documentation. Now, what beats this when it comes to development? So instead of channeling your resources or the resources of the country into improving transportation, into improving communication, why do you build, or why do you establish more portfolios? I'll keep saying that because these are a burden on the national coffers. When you look at the budget, most of our monies are spent on paying government workers. Some of them for doing little work. You get the point. So if we can be innovative and use the monies rather for ways to make the people access their needs easily, I think we are better off. And I would remain with this argument, through to the end.
Ellie, I don't know if you want to say something, right? If not, I'll give the opportunity to Josephine because she has been away for quite a while.
Okay.
So let me hear you.
Mr. Kwesi, I still agree with that one too. But then, you see, for a region to function properly, it's one of the things that you just mentioned. And I think we can just bring this down to technological advancement. Yeah, so presently, I don't need to go to Accra to access certain services. I should just be in the comfort of my room to access certain things. So I agree with you. I agree with you in that regard. So we just have to do much when it comes to this technology. Yeah, I think that's basically the way forward. It will help a lot.
Okay. Josephine, want you to take it from here. When it comes to community engagement, how well, or do you have any example of any initiative that the community led it or something? Do we have something like that that we involve the community?
Okay, Nat, thank you very much. So, with the Zongo Development Fund, I think one of the impacts, the research I did, one of the impacts was social inclusion and equity. So in that sense, it's trying to say that it's trying to include the Zongo communities, which Mr. Akwesi mentioned earlier on, that it's usually it's predominantly the Muslim communities. So per my research is trying to include them more in the social activities that the township also enjoys. Is not trying to seclude them. So that is one of the
Is it my network or we've lost her?
Network is off.
The network is down. Okay, then when she comes, let me mute so that when she comes back, she can make her point. Okay, so let us look at how we can make some improvement in terms of stakeholder engagement. So if, let's say, the government wants to engage other or making the Zongo Development Fund more impactful, what ways can there be collaboration? Ellie, you work in the district, so pick it from there for me.
Okay, I believe one of the things that presently or since the inception of the democracy in Ghana, Ghana has still not yet fully found its way around this, how to get the citizenry involved. And yeah, it's a challenge everywhere, wherever you go, whether at the regional level, the district level, or even our local communities. Because when you look at the various, when you look at the setup, let's use the MDAs for instance. When you look at the setup, so we have the district assembly, then the district assembly also delegates some of its power and authorities to the local assemblies. That's the area and the town councils. Then the town councils also delegate some of their powers to the zonal councils. So inside the zonal, we have the communities, the various communities. It could be a combination of, let's say, 1 or 2 communities. And some of them have powers even that include collection of taxes and all that. But you want to ask yourself that how many people, now let me use my district for example. There are certain taxes that the assembly, we don't go there at all. Let's say weekends, for instance, Saturdays and Sundays. We don't take those taxes that comes in, whether it's you loading goods and trying to get them out of the community or not, or even these funerals that will happen on Saturdays and Sundays. But the truth is that, like I said, I'm making reference to my district, for example. In a year, the amount of money that we generate from this place is not even up to 10,000 cedis, or it could even be lesser. So you just look at the number of Saturdays and Sundays that we have in a year. And if we are not able to generate this amount of money, presently as I'm speaking, we have over 10 funerals happening in the district capital now. Then now, when you take the district capital aside, you have other notable communities too, including Beposo and what have you, the Kwamai. Yeah, so I don't know, but most of the time I feel it's because of poverty. Because I'm like, oh, in the Ukrainian who they meet, then you're asking me to come for a town hall meeting or what. So I believe the more we put in place enough social safety nets that would cater for the basic needs of our communities, then that would rather, yeah, I think we can take it from there. If you put in place these safety nets that tackle the minutest problems in our societies and our communities, then it would be a good way to start. But until we are doing these things, all that the person is concerned about, hey, today, what am I actually going to eat? Let me just go to the farm and get them something. The person doesn't care whether you are imposing e-levy or not. It doesn't need it doesn't need his or her contribution. So I believe, we can take from, imposing, or let's say, introducing a lot of social safety nets to cater for the minutest problems in the communities.
Okay. Akwesi, I would also like you to engage the same question. How can stakeholders collaborate on this? But before you do, let me ask the audience to, if you have any question, you can ask. You can just unmute yourself and then ask. Just unmute yourself and ask so that we take it from there. So
Okay.
Akwesi,
All right. First off, I think Ghana has reached the level of despondency. The reason I'm saying this, we've lost faith in governance. We've lost trust and belief in the institution of politics. You understand? Politics in the strict sense of the word, isn't it supposed to be a bad word? But now it has been dragged so bad that we don't have belief in the system anymore. Now, let me say this, put it in perspective. How many of us even know our assemblymen? How many of us know our unit committee members, among others, and probably MPs? Our connection with governance has been lost, just simply because government has failed to do its part. Now, that is where we need to start solving the problem from. Oftentimes, we say that we need to start solving the problem from the bottom. But if the top has lost control, then the bottom can do nothing. In Akan, we have an aphorism that goes, a number say I think something of that sort. So if anything is going to get spoiled, it is from the head. Now, if our government, our society is in decadence, it means that the government has lost it. Now, the second point, the reason for which stakeholder engagement has been very, very bad, is the fact that we have lost touch with the kind of people that we are governing or we're ruling. Now, this is an internet-based society or world now, or the people, the Ghana's demographics, when you look at the demographics of Ghana, a good number of us are youthful. And a good number probably are even Gen Zs, if I should put it that way. Now, how do Gen Zs relate to their government? We haven't explored that yet. Technically, for those who are millennials and Generation Ys, we think we have to walk to our MP's office and all. But Gen Zs go a different route. They use the internet. How are we reaching out to them? How are we making governance convenient or easily accessible to these young people? These young people are thinking less of government. Now, because we have lost faith in the government, and we've passed that despondence into them, they are not thinking about government. They are thinking about the bread and butter issues, as Mr. Isaac also mentioned. It is now about feeding themselves. There's no nationalism. Now, I believe, in my personal opinion, as a historian and who has studied a lot of civilizations and cultures or institutions beyond our nation, if the government begins to do things right, naturally, you pass on a sense of nationalism to the people. There's a sense of duty to do the right thing in the country. Then you can begin to get them. Otherwise, if you call for a meeting, we are coming to discuss matters affecting our community, I tell you, they are thinking about how to get their money and not about even the gutter that is struck in front of their house. That is how bad we are thinking these days. So for me, and I'm so happy about what Yafo is doing, let us begin to hold the government accountable. It takes, I'm not in any way inciting anarchy or revolutions or what is sort, but we need to be able to stand our grounds and ensure that whatever we've asked the government to do, they do it. We don't have to wait for 4 years, and that is where the problem begins. Stakeholder engagement is not limited to a 4-year discussion. Otherwise, they know, the politicians know how they can get us. So in my opinion, let us hold, I mean, this is a big platform, but for want of a better expression, let us hold them by the most sensitive parts of their bodies, and then they will begin to hasten to our calls. Otherwise, it is going to be business as usual for them.
Okay, thank you very much, Akwesi. Everything is leadership, as you have pointed out. Everything starts from the head. So if the leadership is right, a lot of things will be right in Ghana. We are still on YAFO policy dialogue, and we are assessing the impact of regional reorganization and Zongo Development Fund on Ghana's development. If you are here with us and you have any question, you can ask, you can put it in the question box, and then I will engage our panelists with it. You can also raise your hand, like I've just done. You can raise your hand, and then I will call on you to ask your question directly. Or even if you have a contribution to also make, you can also raise your hand to add your contribution. So with what we have discussed so far, I want to chip this in. Akwesi was a bit hesitant on the word anarchy. It's not that somebody is inciting anybody, but we shouldn't think that once there are no law, everybody will go and do their abnormal thing. It's like the people existed before they created the government. So the people existed, then the people created the law, and then the people created the government. So the people first, the constitution, and within the constitution, they have government. So let us not assume that once the government is no more, everything will go back to the state of nature. As John Locke would say, once people have tasted civilization, they will not like to go back to hunting and gathering because they have tasted civilization. They know how it looks like. So it's just that we have to get things done, but not necessarily want to go back to hunting and gathering. Nobody wants to do that. If you have any question, like I've said, you can add ask your question, or you have contribution, you can add. Now, we look at regional reorganization and then Zongo Development Fund. With the regional reorganization, I think it has ended because once the regions have been created, we are going to have regional ministers, district officers, because some of these regions have existing districts that they just put them together to form one region. So they will have the same existing, because I think we have about 270 districts. It's still the same. It's just the regions that have. Yeah, Isaac, were you saying something? You are muted.
261.
261. 261. Okay, so there has been an addition. So the regions are there, and then we have existing districts that are now under new regions. So it's not as if once we end this whole thing, we should find a way to make sure that the regions, the creation of the regions is one thing, but after that, how do we continue these things is very key. Okay, we must make sure that we create them. And then with the creation of regions, when it was starting, per the constitution, we have to engage the people. They have a referendum and whatnot, as Akwesi took us through that. Now we have created them. My next question is going to be on feedback mechanisms. These are two major government projects, like the Zongo Development Fund. We did 2017, 2018, 2019. So what feedback mechanism is the government taking so that they know that, okay, we did it this way, next year we should improve and go this way or that? Do we have something like that in this developmental project? Akwesi, let me pick it from your end. You start.
I think I will defer such a discussion.
Akwesi, did you get my question? Did you get my question?
Yes, I think your question is very, very technical regarding the feedback the government should be getting from the locals following the creation of the new regions. I believe that is it. Yeah. Yes. So I'm thinking that Mr. Isaac may be of help regarding, has there been any contact with the government, the central government? Yes.
Okay, so
Isaac,
pick it first for me, because Akwesi has deferred. So is there any feedback mechanism for Zongo Development Fund? They say they have trained 250 people. What are the
All right.
feedback
With mechanism, you know,
is Akwesi, you're on the call. Then I'm not getting anything from Isaac. Isaac, is your network okay?
yeah, I think it was the
Yeah,
network.
then please
So
take
I
it.
missed most of the things you said.
It was my network. Sorry. I'm asking.
I want to believe so, yeah.
Okay, I'm asking if there's feedback mechanism for some of these projects so that it gets to improve as time goes on.
I hope you're making reference to the Zongo Development Fund. Okay.
Yes, to the Zongo Development Fund.
Yeah, you know, when it comes to the Zongo Development Fund, I find it very tricky, okay, in the sense that, you know, politicians are smart. Whatever it is that they are doing, they find a way to make it benefit their people. So now, let's take the scholarship scheme, for instance. You know, every year they have a number of people that they award scholarships to. But then one want to ask, how do they go about choosing these people? And without any, we all know, normally these things are put in place to award, let's say, party folks. Yeah, so let's say, yeah, basically that. So in as much as they are doing social interventions, like let's say the stadiums or the astroturfs, for instance, in as much as they are putting these things in place, they have a way to make sure that their people are directly benefiting. So that's when the scholarship scheme and others come in. Now, when you take the astroturfs, for instance, too, I was looking at one of them. You know, when you take Tafo, for instance, Tafo is a municipal capital on its own. Then they have one of the astroturfs there. And I know where it is situated. Now, where it is situated, I know the Tafo Zongo is not directly close to the place. So now one wants to ask that astroturf, how is it going to directly meet the need of the Zongo people? In as much as it's in Tafo, then basically it is for Tafo in general. Yeah, so if I'm bringing astroturf there in the name of Zongo Development Fund, then what exactly or how is it going to benefit the Zongo people in particular? So that's when we look at the feedback, yeah, we can take it. You know, there's no conscious mechanism put in place that we can bring your feedback forth. But then we can also stay afar and make our analysis. So when we sit down to make the analysis, these are the things that we come up with.
Okay. With what you are even saying, you know, with this, I don't know whether I would say we have emergence of astroturf currently that a lot of politicians touted that we have built astroturf here, we have built astroturf there and whatnot. Then when you get closer to the boys, some of them even push this astroturf development away because when it comes to the area, they will now have to pay money to play football. So I was shocked to hear somebody say, we don't need AstroTurf. When AstroTurf come, we cannot play football. So I asked the person, how, why? And it's like, oh, we have to pay money, but if the park is raw, we just take our ball, we just get there, we are playing. I was like, oh, okay, that's also another dimension. So now the AstroTurf is also pushing talent away from the pitches, and they are not getting access to play their normal football. When I experienced it, I was very, very shocked that, oh, so this is what is really, the project is impacting, this is how it is impacting people directly. Then you can also say AstroTurf is a bad thing, it shouldn't come to the community. So I think we have to find a way around that.
All
so
right,
you
let
bring
me
in
add up
another dimension, which is the distance. So
yeah, let me add up to what you just noted.
let me hear you.
Yeah, it's very true. You know, when you come to my district, for instance, we have 3 major town councils. We have the Kwamai, Beposo, and Insuta. Insuta is the capital town. But then, you know, Kwamai has it. Kwamai has the AstroTurf. Beposo also has the AstroTurf. So now it got to the turn of Insuta to be provided with an AstroTurf too. And the inmates were pushing it away. They said no, they don't want it. And it's based on the experience that they had from the Kwamai and the Beposo. Yeah, so what happened is that where the AstroTurf will be situated is where they've actually taken a year or more to just make sure that it is natural, it's green. So now what the AstroTurf, the truth is that no footballer loves it because it comes with its complications. Around this time, if you want to use it and enjoy it, then it means you must be using it early in the morning or towards evening. Because when the sun is shining, around the time that people normally play ball, you can't use the AstroTurf because it actually radiates heat, a lot of it, and it's very uncomfortable. Yeah, so based on this experience, so you want to find out who was consulted before these things were put in place, because those that are using it don't want it. Yeah, and they are not saying anything good about it.
Yeah, I myself, I've played on AstroTurf in a hot afternoon before, and I will say yes, it's true. We have to pour water in our boots so that we can feel comfortable on the pitch, because they have some rubber, black rubber, artificial grass. So once they create artificial grass, they pour some, it's like tile that they've cut it to pieces, and then they pour it on the grass so that you feel like it's a sand, so that it can hold friction, kind of. But because it's black absorb heat, so it's not easy. So look, like what you are saying is true. If you play football in the morning, it will be much comfortable. And then those who are also in charge of it, they charge monies for it. And if you are playing ball in the evening, it's more expensive than playing the football in the afternoon. That is quite cheaper. So I think it was a church program that we went to play football over there. That's how come I was playing football. But so these are key things that we have to get feedback from. And I'm glad that you've note it so that we can get feedback from some of these things and then put them into use when we are doing the next project. At this juncture, we have a few minutes to wrap up our discussion. We will call on our audience. If you have anything to share with us, you can bring it up at this moment. We don't have any question for our panelists. I'll come to take their wrap-up notes from them. One final thought. But then, before that, we have about 1 minute. We'll just keep mute. We want our audience to say something. Give us some feedback, like we are saying. We are talking about feedback. So give us some. It can be a suggestion, a submission, or a question. Anyone is welcome. Okay, Richard, your hand is up. You can unmute and then ask.
Hello.
Yeah, Richard, we can hear you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share my opinion on some of the things that were said. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Please continue. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I believe that in as much as the Zongo Development Initiative is key to engaging or building up development in the communities, on the scale of 1 to 10, I would say I would give it a 2 because it has been overly politicized to the point that most members of parliament who have more say tend to get more funds in order to do more in their communities, where those who don't really have power with their ruling government don't tend to really make an impact in their communities. One example I would give is Winneba. If you go to Winneba, the member of parliament now, who is Afenyo Makin, has done a lot of initiative when it comes to healthcare, like clinics, police posts, libraries, and other infrastructure, which is part of the Zongo Development Initiative. He has done a lot in that regard. But if you compare it to certain areas, like probably Ewutu Senya, you would realize that the communities in this area don't really have any proper infrastructure, and it has really remained the same over the same years. So, and aside that, I would also say that when it comes to economically, that is the reason why I'm giving it to. It looks like more of the interventions are more focused on social interventions, because at the end of the day, the social interventions they create is what the people within these communities would look up to in order to vote for them, because then they can say that I built an astroturf, I constructed a road, I built a clinic. But then it hasn't really translated into improving mostly people's pockets, because the economy has still remained the same. There hasn't really been any improvement in their livelihood. So I believe the social interventions are overshadowing the economic benefits that the people should be getting. That is offering them more jobs, which can then bring them some level of income to improve their standard of living. I'm not saying the social interventions are bad, but then in as much as the social interventions are good, it has to be rounded in all aspects so that the people can truly feel that this initiative is really benefiting them. Just like the AstroTurf you mentioned, they've built an astroturf for them, but at the end of the day, they end up paying, some pay 100 cedis, 200 cedis, 300 cedis. And it's not like the astroturf has brought them some kind of work or some kind of economic activity that would improve the livelihood within the area. But at the end of the day, this astroturf built for them is also taking monies out of their pocket. That is what I want to add to it.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other? If you have any question, you can ask. I think Rich, you are done with your submission, so you can put your hands down on the call. If you check the chat box, I have dropped a Zoom link registration over there. You can click on the link to register for the next event that the president of YAFO is being featured on. You can look at it here. That is the virtual peace conference. So if you want to participate in this one, it's going to be a rich discussion as well. So if you're on this call, let me just announce it quickly. The link is in the chat box. You can just click on it and then you'll be reminded. It's organized by the Africa Center for Collaborative Dispute Resolution. So you can engage the link and then just register so that you can also join us. It's just coming up 2nd of August. Yeah, 2nd August. And it's going to be live on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. So if you enjoy more conferences, just participate. I know that you're not going to regret. I'm featured here as keynote speaker, so I'll be to talk, not to moderate like I'm doing here now. So if you are here and you want to also participate, the link is in the chat box. We also call on our audience to share their thoughts and comments. Then if there's any person to do so, then we can. If not, I'll call on our panelists to give us their final comments. Then we call it a day. So your final comments. Isaac, you can start so that our guest speaker will wrap it up. Yes, so kindly start for me.
Mr. Nathan, thank you very much. I believe this has been a very productive dialogue, and we look forward to more. Yeah, but like with all that we discussed, it seems that the baseline of the Ghanaian problem is politically motivated initiatives. That's the baseline of the problems in Ghana. Yeah, so if you were to just go according to what we plan, and if we were to follow its implementation religiously, then most of these things should actually end up becoming rewarding initiatives. So when we take the creation of the region, for instance, I envision that a day will come that these regions that we created will reflect positively in economic development, the social development, development of infrastructure, and all these things that we look at. Now, when we take the Zongo Development Fund too, for instance, there's one thing that, during my research, one thing that actually made me want to know more is that, you see, there are these interventions that almost every ministry that you go to, they have this education, sensitization, and all that. So now when you think that this particular fund too, they have what you call the Zongopreneurship. And with that one, what they do is that they try training people to empower them. But then my question is that, okay, after giving them the training and the empowerment, what next? You just leave the person, okay, go and implement what you've learned. But then, where from the resources? So why don't you just create a certain system that, okay, after the empowerment, the educational empowerment, you're also going to empower you to get the resources that you need to set up. We are going to put particular initiatives, including monitoring and evaluation, to make sure that you are receiving the proper guidance and all, to make sure that that education that you received and that funding that you received will actually reflect positively in the society at large. All right, thank you.
Josephine, can you share your final words so that I could see come in finally, because your network has been disrupted. Do you have any final comment to share on the event?
Yes, please. Thank you so much. And I really want to apologize for my network interruptions. I actually have, when it comes to what I can finally say, I think when it comes to decision taking,
it's not your fault,
at
okay?
the
It's
top.
external,
When I
don't worry.
Okay, thank you. So what I would add is that when it comes to decision making from policymakers, I think they really need to define what development is. And in defining what development is, they should look at all the other aspects that actually comes into development, plans and activities, so that they don't go about making policies on developmental projects that would, at the end of the day, bring money into their citizens that would work and pay taxes to the government. So if the government is trying to be selfish, and when it comes to developmental plans and decision making, and they are not really thinking about the people, then it doesn't really make any sense. There is no development here, and plan accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josephine. So, Akwesi, Ima, you can share our.
Yeah, so I'll wrap up with a provision in the Constitution of Ghana. Article 240 clause 2. Article 240 talks about the local government. Okay, 240 clause 2 subclause B, and it says Parliament shall by law provide for the taking of such measures as are necessary to enhance the capacity of local government authorities to plan, initiate, coordinate, manage, and execute policies in respect of all matters affecting the people within the areas, with the view to ultimately achieving localization of those activities. Now, from this provision, clearly, the intention of government is to equip the local government to be able to manage the affairs of the locality. Why establish parallel institutions or parallel bodies, Zongo Development Fund, that even identifies another group within the locality and is solely funded or solely at the direction of the central government? You have disenfranchised or you have emasculated the local government from doing its work, creating more regions. What is the point thereof? Whereas your focus, or you're supposed to channel resources into making these local governments capable of rendering proper services or support to their localities. With this, I don't believe we are going any far, and I think what Isaac said is informative. We are just creating politically motivated policies or institutions just to find ways of probably siphoning money, benefiting ourselves. But the actual institutions don't get to work. I mean, typical example, let me not get political, but free senior high school, among other things. Education is supposed to be a gradual process for the local government to take over. Now, when you look at education presently, it has become a central government policy. As a head of school, you cannot speak on how your school can be run. And to an extent, if you step on the toes of the government, you may find yourself being removed from office. This is not local government. So in my opinion, I believe these politically motivated policies and other things are not benefiting the people. And we need to channel our focus once again back to the local governments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you have been with us up to this far, you are enjoying Yafo policy dialogue series, and today we discuss development fund on Ghana's development. The discussion bridging between academia and policy, because in Ghana we don't have a lot of intellectual dialogue. On our radios, everything is political. We have this one here, this one there, and then they talk. So we leave the experts aside. So our policy dialogue series is to bring more intellectuals to the forefront of policy issues so that we can really digest it from the intellectual point of view, devoid of political interest. So if you have been here this far, we thank you very much for joining this discussion, and stay tuned as Yafo Institute will bring you another policy dialogue on our feed.